Well, hello everybody. So, we have, right now, well, me, my brother's been doing somewhat. I have been repairing these horrific wires. You probably see the video I did before where I was repairing them. Well, now I've done it a little bit more. And I've also added some of this nice crinkly pipe kind of thing. See my original repair inside, there's heat shrink tubing underneath all that as well. And to keep it waterproof, what I've done is I coated the wires in grease, just normal lithium, not lithium grease, just normal grease, you know, what you'd use in a wall joint or something. Sorry about the wind noise. Yes. As soon as you get the camera out, the wind fires up. So I rubbed grease all over the wire and all over the solder joint and everything that I just, that I made. Put my heat shrink tubing over it and then heated it up to shrink it down. So all of that grease has now got stuck all over the inside of the wire, trying to stop it from getting any water. It's just a little more waterproofing, just to help it. It is in a place where water might splash up. Yeah, so as you can see, I've done a few bits and bobs on here at the moment. I've built the new radiator up, which I've got to use a fin comb on, which I have got somewhere. Don't you dare fall back and hit that radiator. So that's all built up. One thing to remember when you put these together, don't do what I did. And for starters, put the intercooler on upside down, which I did, which is why there's all the dents just there. So don't do that. Also, and it's like putting your t-shirt on inside out and back to front this. Seriously, that's the level. Don't get these brackets the way around, because they can go on both way rounds. You'll end up with this part of the bracket here, right where you need to put the pipe on. So yeah, don't do that, because I did that too. Yes. Big thank you to Iveco. Cheers, Mark. You've helped me out quite a bit there, because I've been re-watching some of your videos and seeing where bits go, because I did forget where some of these bits went. My brother actually was a bit too afraid to put all this back together again. He actually lost heart with the whole project and pretty much given up with it. I come out here and started doing work on the fuel system and actually got really engrossed into it, and started full work again on the thing. Great stuff. Quite happy with that. I don't like that being left open, that air thing. So we have to keep putting rag in it. Stop bits going down into it. We don't want that to happen. Could do with a nice proper cover to go over it. But for now, the rag will do. So the battery tray's back on again. Yep, you can see all this horrific mess that's everywhere. That's Dynax S50. Don't care what it looks like, it's protected from rust. It's not going to rot again. Any built Hamber product I highly recommend. Super highly recommend. Cannot recommend it high enough. We did move this wire. It used to go around here, but I didn't like how it chafed, so I've moved it and I'm just going to zip tie it. That was actually a part where I was going to earth everything to, but then realised I messed up and the earthing point was originally a bit further back, so I've put it in a hole a bit further back. Got rid of the old earthing clamp, which was this thing now. That thing originally used to bolt there. It's all well and good, but look how rotten it's gone. It's gone thin in areas and all the things started breaking off. Screw it. One big bolt. Everything has been separated with copper washers on this. So it's also it's a mild steel bolt. Most of the nuts on it are mild steel, but the one top nut, which is this one here, which I think is only finger tight. Oh no, it feels quite tight. That one is actually stainless, but it's the only one I could find, so It's the first one I put my hands on. It's also a locking nut too, which doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine like that. Yeah, I also went to the liberty of chucking grease into all of these plugs as well, just because a lot of them were corroded. The original waterproofing had completely gone, and I think that mostly was because the whole thing was on fire at some point in its life. All of this was melted. We're wondering why none of the rear lights on this thing worked. You know, bits on the back of the back. You know, bulbs are fine. It's like, well, why don't the lights work? Well, it's all because these plugs here have melted together. So yeah, that took some repair work. In fact, I actually had to completely replace one of the plugs on here. Just cut the wires and splice a new one in this top one. Actually, this top one was originally the bottom plug, and I've just swapped them over so it's the one at the top now. And again, I've put all this plastic coating on it because it had none of that before originally. It was just bound, you know, tape. This kind of tape, which is good stuff, but it starts doing this and just well, look at it, it's shit basically. It's just horrific stuff. Getting that shit out of here. It's good when you first put it on, but it's naff when it's been on a while. I'm not really happy about just binding that up with tape. I want to put some pipe over that, but I've got some on order, some more of this stuff, and when I get it, it's thick as well, so it's gonna just clip on over this and make it a bit more protected. Much better stuff. You can see I've gone a bit mad with it because I've even done it on the fuel lines, which, as you can see on this, the fuel lines have been completely changed. We've put copper lines on it instead of the original, as I didn't really like them too much, well, plastic ones that we had. They were snapping left, right and centre. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a red pipe here originally, and I just twitched it a little bit and it just snapped straight off. So yeah, screw that, got rid of it. Replaced all the fuel lines with this nice, pretty good quality fuel hose, which is Halford stuff, but if Halford's in the UK is a automat, you know, it's a bit like what's the American one called? Auto Parts, is it? I don't know, whatever. Something like that. And the fuel lines are at the moment just dangling around. I need to get some zip ties or something, which is why I've put this crinkly tubing on the fuel line. So anywhere where the fuel line chafes, it's going to have that to prevent it from chafing. Well, I've done that on a lot of the pipes, even all the way back down here, even around where it zip ties a lot. No chafing's going to happen. That's going to get zip tied up to this. Happy days. Happy days. This pipe here is the injector return. This thing here, which is the connector. This connector is supposed to clip onto here, I do believe. But unfortunately, and that is supposed to be up here. It's supposed to be spun round, and that's supposed to be the bottom. And you know, it's all wrong. But I've done it this way on purpose because of the way I've redesigned it. So originally, this one here, this wire, which is for your starter, main cable for your starter motor, that used to go down to the bottom and feed down to the starter motor, but I've put it to the top because it makes it much neater. In fact, the only reason why this wire is not at the top is because it's got an earthing cable which goes down to that earthing point there, which, as you can see, I've played with that and I've made it a super earth now. So we've got actually a dedicated cable which comes up and around and bolts that earthing point, which also earths the chassis of the van as well, which is also earthed to this bolt down here, which I had to replace because the spot welded one, you can see that I've put copper washers on it there. Makes it so much such a better connection if you use a copper washer. I don't know why people don't do that. And then all this is all connected to using the original strap, which I didn't really want too much, but we've put a different thing on. This is only temporary, as you can see. It's not ideal, but it'll do the job for now. It'll do the job for now. Yeah, that obviously connects into that one there, which is a lot more pleasant. Nice plugs. I must admit the plugs on this are quite nice if they don't get a lot of water on them. But unfortunately, yeah, sometimes that can't be helped. The reason why these failed is because the cab mounts failed. And the wires, with the chassis and the cab moving independently, the wires were chafing away. In fact, you can see on this where it's been sawing away at it a lot, and there were cables that were doing that, arcing out. And it's actually arced out and damaged the actual bracket. And rust obviously set in as well. But yeah, it was pretty horrific. I'm glad I found it when I did. I wonder why all the fuses were blown in this thing. Like the wiper fuse was blown. The wiper on this has been completely rebuilt. I should have painted that to make it look better, but screw it. Boost hose. That can go down there for now. But the wiper motor on this, I completely took it apart and I greased up the bearings in the end of the motor, and the other end of the motor at the gearbox had no grease in it whatsoever. I mean, the thing sounded like a damn cement mixer. So it's all been greased up, all been realigned. Should be good. Greased up all of the splines as well with new fresh grease. Shouldn't ever fail for another 100,000 miles. Brilliant. Good. Glad I fixed that. Yes, we have had a hole there leading into the cab, which was where all the refrigeration wiring came through, because that was full of it, of course, for the refrigeration system. Still got the refrigeration pump there. Oops. So it's a generic pump, that is. It'll bolt onto anything, that. If anyone needs a refrigeration pump, let me know. I know they're worth quite a bit of cash, so give me put an offer in for it, you know. We'll ship it out to you. It's still a good pump, that. It's been left upside down so nothing can go inside it. You know, no liquid or anything. So the pump itself is still in very good condition. Still turns nice and free. Very good. We're still doing the thing with the alternator, so that's still going to be a thing that's happening. So down there an alternator is going to go underneath all of this lot. Did I show you what happened with this bottom radiator hose? And because come on off. There we go. Now because this had become disattached from this bracket here, this plug, it was dangling down and hitting the radiator hose, and it caused that. And that radiator hose is very close to actually going through. You can see it's worn through the top layer and it's just about ready to go through the bottom layer. And I'm pretty sure if this thing was running with just water in the coolant tank, the pressure would have got up high enough and it would have popped that. Glad I found it when I did. So that's one issue potentially saved. The other thing we've got, where is it? Let's go for a little bit of a walk. It's my fridge there. It's going to go in my camper van. After I finish playing around with it, I've got to take the fridge compressor off it and do all the things. This happy little fellow here, this is the back of the turbo. So your wastegate sits in there, look, and your turbo exits through this. Obviously exhaust side, and something's not right there, something's broken. Yeah, so trying to find one of these is not easy, I must admit. It's not easy at all to find one of those. So much so I was actually thinking of just welding it back up again. I know they say cast iron's a bastard to weld, but desperate times, I'm afraid. I'm gonna have to see if I can heat this thing up to like cherry red, which is the best thing you can do when it comes to cast. You get it as hot as possible before you weld it. Take this off. This I can't remember what it is now. Is it lead? Is it they use? I don't know. Lead wrapped in wire mesh. try and get that off. Grind this to a nice flat surface. Maybe step it, slope it, maybe. Get as long as I possibly can to repair the fracture. So slope it off. With the grinder, and weld a fresh piece of just normal steel over it, in a bit of a loop. Pretty sure I can make that in the vise. I've got some nice thick plate steel as well, which will do the job for this. The reason why this failed, I've covered this before in another video, is because the exhaust brackets, the hangers, the rubber hangers, all of them had failed. That's why this had failed. The absolute pressure of the exhaust, the weight of the exhaust, just riding on this was enough to, snap it. You can see it's been snapped for quite some time too. You can see where the snap originally started. Look, it started here and it worked its way through and it just became weaker and weaker. This, like I say, this is proving to be quite a difficult thing to source. I have messaged so many people on eBay who's breaking these vans, and on Facebook, the Facebook groups, and they either mess you about and don't ever get back to you, even though you keep pestering them, or they just say, we'll not sell it on its own, it's got to be the complete turbo, which, to be fair, is a bit of a waste on my behalf, because these things never fail. We're just really unlucky that this has failed in ours, but and to get it off, it just comes straight off. There's no fancy gaskets or anything, it just pops straight off. It's just a damn shame. But yeah, it's just the way it is, I guess. Someone eventually will sell us one, I just have to keep asking around. So yeah, I need the replacement bottom radiator hose and the turbo outlet. That is that. Old alternator down there, which surprisingly is still in good condition. We replaced it because we thought it was, old. But it turns out it's still got loads of life left in it. Leaving it under the van because it's not getting wet under there. So we might just sell it as a spare part, alternator. Second-hand alternator. This van's relatively low miles at 130,000, so the alternator itself is probably still alright. It never had any bad readings or outputs. Plenty of brushes left, plenty of commentator left, so yeah. We'll probably just stick it on eBay as a £20 buy it now. Unless any of you guys want an alternator for one of these vans, let me know. Just don't ask me in like 3 or 4 years time, because I probably won't have it. So make sure you look at how old the video is first. What else is there to report on this? Nothing much really. We're in the process of cleaning things on the van. I've replaced the thing as well, because this never worked on ours. Now it springs back by itself. Yay! It never used to work. So now we haven't got the risk of the bonnet opening up as we're going down the road. This happened as well earlier today. Ooh, look at that. Again, built Hamber products. Nice. Tasty. Really good. Almost looks like it's been done from the factory, doesn't it? I should have took this off first, but screw it. It wasn't me that did it, was my brother. Some nice runs we've got in there, look. Oh dear. Shouldn't they grumble about it? I don't know if the camera will see in there very well, but see my messy hair, look. Alright guys. Bring it back out again. I'm covered in it now, look. It's all over the tyre. Yeah. As it goes, that's about it really. That's about it. Oh, belt. Put the belt on. Yes. So, if you ever do this on your vehicle, it probably is the same for other vehicles as well. Idler pulleys are worth a fortune. They're worth a damn fortune. So if you get one that feels a bit, you know, gritty. These ones felt a little bit gritty. Take them off, pull the seals out of the bearing and keep blasting WD-40 in while spinning them around. Try and clear all the old grease and crap out of them, you know, get it all gone. And then just pack them full of new grease. And these two bearings, they are nice and strong. You know, there's no play in them. So we just thought, why the hell not? Leave them back on again. Good stuff. I can't really say the same for that one. That one's screwed, that one is. It's absolutely knackered, that one. So we have got to try and find a replacement one of those. And that's only a generic one, that. It's just a generic idler pulley, that is. Nothing special about it. But yes, should be good. As it goes, only things we've got to do. My brother still wants to do some more stuff in this engine bay. We've got to wait for it to dry out because we've just degreased a lot of stuff inside here and all down the chassis. So we've got to wait for it to drip dry, so to speak. Same for this side, we've done a lot of work in there and it's got to wait for it to dry. It's actually amazing how well... Okay, so you can't really see it now, but this stuff here, now it's dried on again, but this is EGR deposits from the EGR valve. This built Hamber water-based degreasant, I'm not sure the name of it, made by the same people who make Dynax. We just literally brushed it on, one brush, as you can see. It brought EGR straight off. Now, I don't know if you know, but EGR deposits on paint is very difficult to get off. It takes a lot. People say this stuff works better than petrol, and I believe them. It's really, really good stuff. I fully recommend it. I rate their products so much. So yes. And of course I'm not being paid to say any of this. I just really, really like them. I really think that they deserve to be bought by other people. I just, you know, really do. But yeah, ECU is back on again. That's good. Not had the engine cranking over yet because the fuel lines were not connected, and I do not want to drag air into the fuel system. So until I get the fuel tank back on again, and get the rear of these pipes back on, so the pipes above the fuel tank, which are, I've got them down here. I've got that one there, and this one here, which I've got to put a zip tie on. A Jubilee clamp on. They're going to go on the pipes at the back, on top of the fuel tank, and that will be good. That will be good. The only thing that's letting this engine bay down, what is it? What does it look like? It's this thing. This is really, really letting it down. It needs to come off and get painted. It looks so bad. It's not necessary. It's not essential, but it just looks so horrific. No, I might actually paint that. It just looks pretty rough. It needs painting, doesn't it? It upsets the whole engine bay. Right. Anyway. I think that's about it for now. I think my brother just poked us out the door telling me my dinner's ready because he's going and cooked me dinner because I've been doing all this work on here, so hey. Aye. Oh, and yeah, this side. Snapped all 4 bolts on this, getting it undone when we undid it. But thankfully we've got 4 bolts that side. And you see I've already taken one out because I'm going to use it for measuring. I'm going to take it somewhere when somewhere opens, because we're still obviously in a lockdown situation. When somewhere opens, I am going to take that and hopefully get some replacement bolts. Prefer them not to be stainless steel, prefer them to be mild because they're a bit tougher if they're mild steel, less nickel content, although you can get toughened stainless nowadays. My Fiat on the front is mostly toughened stainless. Not hardened, toughened. Hardened makes them brittle. Don't want that. So, someone's sneezing. Everyone's out in the garden, the light's quite nice. It's only just warm enough for a t-shirt. Only just, and that's if you stood in the sun. So, anyway. Wind, no, go away. Right, so yes, that's it. I'm gonna go get my food. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next video, whenever that may be. Peace out.